Gaming Bolt presents 15 medieval games of 2017 and beyond. The industry is built on games that depict a setting that is medieval, or fairly close to it in nature. Technically, medieval has a very specific definition, and if we were to be nitpicky about it, not a lot of the games that we're speaking of when we say that, or several of them that will be in this feature, would be called medieval per se. However, when you think of games like Fire Emblem and Age of Empires, which actually is medieval, you can't deny their importance to the industry. Here in this feature, we've listed what we think are 15 of the most interesting and best looking medieval games of 2017 and beyond, both those that have already been released and those that will be launched soon. If we left any out, don't forget to mention them in the comment section below. For Honor. For Honor was obviously released to some skepticism, as is the case with most Ubisoft games these days. But when it launched, people quickly realized that it's a highly enjoyable and very fresh experience. Featuring a combat system that focuses on methodical, tactical gameplay rather than mindless button mashing, For Honor has definitely left a mark on the people who have played it. It may have been lost in a crowd of great first half of 2017 games such as Breath of the Wild and Horizon Zero Dawn, but it still deserves to be praised for trying something new and doing it well. Styx: Shards of Darkness. Styx: Shards of Darkness is one for the old school stealth fans, with mechanics that will remind them of the glory days of the PlayStation 2 era. The game features some really funny and snarky writing, even though it can become a bit much at times, and great level design helps elevate the otherwise basic stealth mechanics. It may not be the best looking game or a huge AAA release, but Shards of Darkness is a very enjoyable game that any stealth fan would like. Mount & Blade II: Bannerlord. It's been a very long time since we last got to play some Mount & Blade. The first game launched in 2008 with its expansion following a year later, and both of them provided us with some pretty solid action RPG gameplay. Mount & Blade 2 is finally releasing this year, and by the looks of it, we're in for another pretty solid experience. Set 200 years before the events of the first game, Bannerlord will tell us the tale of the fall of the Calradian Empire, and we cannot wait to get our hands on it. Middle-earth: Shadow of War. Shadow of Mordor was a revelation when it first came out. Not an industry-changing one, and no, it won't be remembered as one of the greatest games of all time or anything like that, but no one really expected it to be as good as it was. Its sequel, Shadow of War, promises to build on everything that the original did so well, and it actually looks like we'll even improve upon it in significant ways. Already, the evolution of the Nemesis system has us excited, and if developers Monolith can wrinkle out a few of the flaws present in the original game, they could have a real gem on their hands. Fire Emblem Echoes: Shadows of Valentia. It's surprising how much the Fire Emblem series has grown in the last few years. It was on the edge of certain death in 2013, but Awakening turned out to be an absolute marvel. Nintendo quickly followed it up with the three-pronged Fates and then the mobile game Fire Emblem Heroes, and now the series is one of the hottest properties. Shadows of Valentia is a remake of one of the series' most unique experiences, with features like an overworld and towns, and mixed with new mechanics that the Fire Emblem series has adopted so well. It seems like the latest entry in the series will be another great addition to the 3DS library. Graveyard Keeper. You may not have heard of a little game known as Punch Club, but those who have absolutely love it. Graveyard Keeper is made by the same guys, and it looks like it'll be an absolute blast. It's essentially a simulator where you manage a graveyard and have it grow and expand into a thriving business. You can host entertainments such as witch burning, and you can choose to feed human meat to visitors in order to save money on all the animal meat you'd have to buy, which is frankly a little disturbing. And of course, you can explore dungeons. Not many of you might be following this game, but by the looks of it, a lot of you should. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. The people who brought us games such as Heavenly Sword have been working on something new for a while now, and that something new is nearing its final launch. Hellblade is another action hack-and-slash title which will supposedly feature the same action combat that Ninja Theory are known for, but in addition, it also promises to feature a deep, complex character-driven story. Doing that is, of course, easier said than done, but Ninja Theory are saying all of the right things right now, and what they're saying definitely has us excited. Mordhau. Mordhau is quite similar to For Honor, at least on paper. And while it's true that not a great number of people have heard of it or know what it's all about, that doesn't mean that it's not looking good. Mordhau is going to be a competitive multiplayer title that focuses on medieval melee combat, pitting players up against each other in all sorts of duels to see who comes out on top. It remains to be seen whether the game will have the right sort of mechanics to back its strong ideas, but so far, we're definitely intrigued. Deep Down. Deep Down has been in development for a long time, and as such, it's been a while since the game wasn't on a lot of people's most anticipated lists. But that's for a very good reason. Deep Down looks great. A 4-player co-op dungeon crawler that features combat in the mold of Dark Souls. That's a great idea on paper to begin with, and the footage we've seen of Deep Down so far suggests that it will be more than just that. Hand of Fate 2. The original Hand of Fate was a surprise hit when it first launched back in 2015. With a unique and enjoyable mixture of deck-building elements and roguelike gameplay combined into an action RPG, Hand of Fate impressed quite a number of people. It makes sense that its sequel is highly anticipated by those who have played its first game. Hand of Fate 2 looks to be a great evolution on the original's formula. With the core of its gameplay already having a solid foundation, all Hand of Fate 2 needs to do is improve upon the errors of the original, and we'll have something really great on our hands. Aetur. Aetur looks to be a really interesting game. It's an indie-developed isometric 2D RPG, but what's really interesting is rather than sticking to the many tried-and-true formulas of the genre, it's trying something new. It will feature a rather unique leveling system which sees you choosing between strong, permanent upgrades or fleeting, stronger, temporary power-ups. A game built around that, along with a solid combat system, can't really be all that bad, can it? It remains to be seen whether the ideas are executed properly, but if they are, Aetur will be a great experience. Wartile. Wartile launched just a couple weeks ago, and being an indie game that was surrounded by some of the biggest AAA launches of the decade, obviously it went under the radar a little bit. But that shouldn't take away from the fact that this is actually a really enjoyable game. Sort of a mix between a real-time strategy game and a turn-based strategy game, Wartile is a game that puts its focus on positioning your units in wonderfully constructed diorama-like maps. Wartile is a great way of bringing strategy board games to life. Volsyn, Lords of Mayhem. Volsyn Lords of Mayhem launched at the end of March, just a few days ago, and there's no denying that the game is really, really good. Almost surprisingly so. It doesn't do anything that would make you sit up and take notice, but it's a thoroughly enjoyable and solid experience that is rendered in a beautiful, visually striking world. With the mixture of some thrilling hack-and-slash combat and a flexible class system of sorts, Lords of Mayhem is definitely a game that hardcore RPG fans need to play at least once. Northgard. Northgard has been playable for over a month now, and anyone who's played it will tell you one thing. It's bloody good. Set on an unknown new continent, you play as a contingent of Viking warriors and fight against similar factions for control of the new land. With a mixture of some great mechanics such as resource management, assigning jobs to your Vikings, and trading with other outposts, Northgard provides an extremely enjoyable strategy experience. Hyper Knights. Hyper Knights isn't your typical fantasy or medieval game. It focuses not on its storytelling or deep, complex mechanics, but rather on pure, unadulterated fun. You literally slash and dash your way through hundreds of enemies in a 2D environment, chaining combos in a largely skill-based combat system, all the while laying siege to enemy castles, recruiting knights, or other such activities. In short bursts, Hyper Knights is extremely fun, and it definitely deserves to be played at least once. And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at Gaming Vault, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.